We'll work through each of the parts of this character and take a look at the modifiers. So what we want to do is apply any of the mirror modifiers, and we also want to combine a couple of these objects together. So for example, if I select the character and I come over to the modifiers tab here, we have two modifiers on most of these objects. The first is a mirror modifier and the second is a subdivision surface. I'm not going to apply the subdivision surface modifier. It's not necessary to apply that. If you were exporting the character, you could apply that export. It's always a good idea just to leave it on the character, and you can make changes to the character, because once this modifier is applied, it adds an awful lot of extra geometry and it can be very difficult to modify a character. So I'm going to come up and just expand the mirror modifier. Now this is the first one in the stack, and that's important. In most cases, it's a good idea to have the mirror modifier at the top of the stack. So when we apply it, it's not going to affect the subdivision surface modifier. So I'm going to hit the apply button on this. And if I select the hair, I can see that we don't have a mirror modifier on it. But what I'm going to do is combine the hair with the character's body. So with the hair selected, I can shift select the character, Control J, and just join them together. And up here in the outliner, you can see that because we had the character selected last, that new combined object takes on the name of the character. Okay, so we'll do the same thing with maybe the eyebrows. I can select them, come over and apply the mirror modifier, and shift click the character, Control J, and join those together. Okay, so that's the character. Let's come up to the outliner, and I'm just going to, first off, I'm going to check on this here, which disables the background images in the viewport. Okay, and I'm going to also minimize it. I'm going to just hide the visibility of the character, and we can work on maybe the teeth. So I'm going to zoom in here. Select maybe the top gums. I'm going to come over and apply that modifier. I can do the same thing for the bottom gums. Apply that modifier. And the teeth don't have a mirror modifier on them, so that's going to be fine. But what I do want to do is combine the top gums with the top teeth. So with the gums selected, I can shift select the teeth, Control J, and join those as one object. I can do the same thing down here. Select the bottom gums, shift select the bottom teeth, Control J, and join those. And I can select the tongue, and we also have a mirror on that, so I can apply that. Okay, I can zoom out a little bit and maybe pan this down. So we have the eyes here also. Let's take a look. What I want to do is parent the inner eyes to the outer eyes. So with the outer selected, I can apply the mirror modifier. I'm going to tab into edit mode, press Alt A. What I want to do now is separate these objects. So I'll hover the mouse on the right eye, press L and press P, and just separate that by selection. Okay, I can tab back to object mode. I can select this new object here, double click, and just rename this then to outer underscore R, press enter. Okay, I can select the inner eye then and apply the modifier. I can tab into edit mode. I can just come up to the outliner and just briefly hide the outer eye. That way we have the outer eye left and the outer eye right. And I can tab into edit mode, Alt A. I'll hover the mouse on the right eye, press L. I can press P and separate this by selection. And now I can tab back to object mode. I can select this newly separated eye, come up here, double click, and just rename this then to eye inner underscore R. Okay, and press enter. Switch back on the visibility of the outer eye. So the first thing I'll do is select the eye inner left, press and hold shift and select the eye outer left. Okay, and you can check that you only have these two objects selected. If I press Z, bring up wireframe, I can zoom in here. Okay, I have a slight issue. I have part of this eye is not separated correctly. So that's my eye inner. I need to press Z, come back to solid. I'm going to switch off the visibility of the outer eyes again. So probably the easiest thing to do is select this, shift select this, Control J just to join them back together. I'm going to tab into edit mode, Alt A. I'll hover the mouse here, press L and L to select all of these. So where I have the seam here, it's a separate island, so I needed to select that separately. So I'll press P then again and separate that by selection. I can tab back to object mode. I'll select this object again, come up here, double click, and just rename this to R. So eye inner R. Okay, and I'll switch back on the visibility of the outer. So again, let's parent these. So I'm going to select the eye inner left, press and hold shift and select the eye outer left. So again, I can press Z and check wireframe to make sure both these objects are selected. I'll press Control P for the set parent to, and I'll choose object and keep transform. I'll do the same thing here. I'll select the right inner, press and hold Shift, select the right outer, and over here I can press Control P and object keep transform. So that way, if I select the eye outer, press G, the eye inner is going to travel along with it. Okay, I can zoom out now. I'm going to press Z and just come back to look dev, and I can switch back on the visibility of character and zoom right out. The next thing I want to do is move this character forward to approximately the center of the grid here, and have the center of his body mass approximately the center of the grid. So I'll press A to select everything, and I can see that everything is selected up here in the outliner. I'll press 3 for side view, and I'll press G and Y and drag him forward, maybe approximately here, just lining up approximately the center of his shoes. It's not too important, but just have him approximately here. So with all of these objects still selected, we can see that we have different origin points for all of these objects. I'll apply all transformations now to this character. So Control A, and I'm going to apply all transforms. So that way up here we have zeros for the location, the rotation, and the scale for each of the objects. Okay, so if I press and hold the middle mouse button and I zoom in here a little bit, if I select the teeth, for example, we can see that we have zeros for the location, rotation, and a scale of 1. And if I select any other object, including the eyes, we can see we have the same transformations. Okay, so that's going to be important before we begin to rig, and that is to have all your transformations non-uniform. Okay, so that's an important step. Okay, so that's the character set up and ready for rigging. Okay. The first thing we need to do is enable the Rigify add-on. So I'm going to come up here to Edit, come down to Preferences. In the Add-ons tab here, I can come up and just grab this slider and just drag it right down to the bottom here. And over here, Rigging and Rigify. So I'll put a check mark here and X this down. And I'll press numpad 1 and also zoom out a little bit. I'm going to press Shift S and put the cursor to World Origin. I'll also come over to the outliner here. I'm going to first just minimize the character collection. I can right click and choose New. I want to add a collection here for the rig, so I can double click here. Let's call this Rig and press Enter. And over here, I'll press Shift A, and the Armature tab here has a few options. So we have single bone, we have the human meta rig. There is a basic rig in here, but it doesn't have finger joints or finger controls. You'd have to add them yourself. It also doesn't have any eye controls, and that's the reason I'm not going to use this one. I am, however, going to use this one here. Now, this one is a little bit more complex with the facial rig, but we're not going to be concerned with most of that. We're going to hide away some of those controls and just simplify this so we can rig our character. So I'm going to choose the human meta rig. And that comes into the scene a little bit larger than our character. And we want to avoid moving this rig in object mode. Any modifications, we can make them in edit mode, and any animation, we can make them in pose mode. So up here, because we have the rig selected, we have object, edit, and pose mode available to us. So like I said, any edits, we can use edit mode, and any animation, we can use pose mode. Okay, so just keep that in mind. First thing I'll do is press tab and come into edit mode. I'm going to press A to select everything, and I want to scale this down. Now if I press S right now, it's going to scale to its medium point. So I'm going to right click, press the period key and switch this to 3D cursor. So that way it's going to scale to the position of the 3D cursor. I'll also come over to these options here, and what I want to do is come over to viewport display and just check on in front. And that way we can see the armature through the character. Okay, and back in the 3D view, I'm going to press S and scale this down. And I'm just going to approximately line up the shoulders there. So somewhere like this, and left click. The next thing I want to do is come up to the tool tab here. I'm going to check on X-axis mirror, and that way if I, for example, select this bone here, press G, it's going to mirror across to the opposite side on the X-axis, and that will help an awful lot. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, and as you can see, there's quite a bit of a facial rig on this character. Now we're not going to be too concerned with most of these. I'm going to hide a lot of them away. So let's begin to select a few of them. I'm going to select maybe some of these here. The ear ones I'm not going to be concerned with. Come around the far side, select these guys here. Maybe shift select these top ones here. And maybe these front ones here. It gets a little bit confusing with all of these bones to begin with, so let's just hide them. You can select these guys here. And maybe these ones here also. And maybe we'll also select these. So with these selected, I'll press M for the change bone layer. So I'll move these over here to this layer. That way they get hidden and we can focus more on the remaining bones. So I'll press 1 just to come into a front view. I can zoom in here. So the first thing I'll do is select these guys here and press G, drag them up and just above the eye, so the brow here. I can also maybe lasso select these guys here. So press and hold Control, right mouse button, drag a selection over all of these. I'll press G, drag these up somewhere like this. I can zoom in a little bit more. And what I'll do is just select these individual joints and just position them around the outer section of the eye here. Just drag them and position them like this. I'm going to lasso select them again. And I'll press 3 for side view. Press G and Y and just drag these forward. Something like that. I'll select these top bones again. And I can just drag these out here. Okay, so that roughly positions those there. Could maybe get away with dragging them forward a little bit more. So G and Y. Okay, I'm going to press 3 again and zoom out. I'm going to press Alt A. What I'm going to do is lasso select all these remaining joints here and press G and just drag them just kind of forward here like this. Okay, I'll press 1 again and zoom in. What I'm going to do is maybe select all of these mouth joints here. Press 3 again. I can press G, just drag them. And then I can select these ones and drag them into position on the side view at least. I'll press 1 again. And I can position these then. Okay, something like that. I'll press and hold the middle mouse button. The next one are the nose joints. So I'll select them, press 3. Select these and just move them into position. If you need to know the name of these joints, you can come over here and it's going to give you the name here. I'm going to come back over to the object data layer. I'm just going to press and hold shift, switch on this here. And I'm just going to press 3. I want to just see what these are connected to. Select this here, I can drag it back up. So this bone should be down here. So I'll select these and just tidy these up a little bit. I can press 1 for front view. And what I might do is just these bones here, I can select them for a moment. Press 3 for side view. I'm just going to drag these forward and kind of up like that. Now this one I might just drag back a little bit. Somewhere like this. And I'll just come over then to the layer tab, press and hold shift, and just switch those off. So I'll press Z and bring up wireframe. I can zoom in here a little bit. So we have this bone here, and if we take a look at the bone name, it's teeth top or teeth.t. This one I can maybe drag down a little bit. Select this one here, teeth.b. So I'll just drag this forward, position it here. This one here is the tongue, and these three actually are the tongue bones. So I can shift select the three of these, press G, and drag these down, maybe start up here, and then just select the joint and position these along the length of the tongue here. So something like this, drag that over here. Okay, so they're lined up there with the tongue, and we have the teeth in position. I'll just come down along here. I'm just going to maybe select this and drag it back. Maybe select the tip of this one and drag it forward, and just position them around the perimeter of the outline here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I can zoom out. The head joint here, or spine 6, I'm going to press G, drag that up a little bit. Maybe position it here where the head would rotate. Select the tip and just drag that up in the Z. So I'll press Z and come back to look dev. Let's come around here. One final bone up on the head that we need to position, and that's the eye bone. So this one here. Now this one needs to be at the center of the eye. So I'm going to tab back to object mode, select the eye, tab in here. I'll press the / key a couple of times to isolate it. I'll press 3 for side view. I'll press 1 for vertex selection, and I'll select this here. Shift S, cursor to selected. That's going to place the cursor at the center of this object. I can press the / key now to come back, tab back to object mode. I can select the armature, tab in here. So with this bone selected, this eye bone, again you can check that it's I_L over here. I can press Shift S and choose selection to cursor, and that positions the head of the bone then at the center of the eye, and that's important for the rotation. So I can zoom out here. Let's take a look then at maybe the arms. So I'll press 1, come over here. I can lasso select all of these, and what I'm going to do is come up and change the pivot point from 3D cursor to active element, and that way with the active object being this bone here, if I press R and rotate, it's going to rotate from the head of that bone. So I can just rotate that a little bit, press and hold shift, deselect this one. I can select this one here, press R, rotate that up a little bit more. I'm going to tab back to object mode for a second and just select the character. Now over here in the object properties, I can come down to viewport display, and I'm going to switch on wireframe for the moment, and that displays the wireframe of the character. Now I'm going to come up to the modifiers tab and just switch off the visibility of the subdivision surface modifier, and that just allows me to see where I placed the joints for both the elbow and the wrist. I can select the rig again, tab back into edit mode. I'm going to press Alt A. I'm going to lasso select all of these bones here with the hand. Press G, drag that over here. Maybe position it. I'll press 7 and maybe shift select this now. Press G, drag this over. I can maybe select this bone here and just drag that forward. So we want to have a bit of an angle coming from the shoulder down to the wrist. So we want to come relatively straight out here, but we want a nice little angle here. So we want to make sure we have that. I'm going to press Alt A to deselect. I can lasso select these here, press G, drag them over and just place them there. I can zoom in a little bit. So the next thing I'll do is maybe position the thumb bones. So I'll select the 3 of these, press G, and then just position these in place over here. Okay, so that's them in the top view. Let's take a look at these 3 in front view. So I'll select them just so I know which ones I have selected. Press 1. Okay, I can zoom in again. I'll press G, Z. I'm going to drag straight up to approximately the center of the thumb there. So that way I know that this bone joint is approximately center. I'll select this one here, press G, Z. I'll drag that up to approximately the same height. This one here, same thing, press G and Z, drag that up. This one here, I'll repeat the process. Okay, so now if I come back into top view, they're in the same position approximately. I can maybe fine tune them a little bit. Something like that. So maybe I'll select this and just drag it back to here, and this one maybe back to here. Okay, so let's move on with the next fingers. I'll select these three here, compress G, drag them over, and then just position these here where I think they should be. Okay, again I can select the three of these, press 1, press G and Z, drag them up to the center of the finger. I'll select the next joint and just repeat the process. Okay, something like that. Again, 7 for top view. I can move across. Maybe select this first actually. Just drag it over. I can select that one. Okay, and I'll select these three here. Press G. And just work ahead and position the rest of these. Okay, and with those positioned, I can move on. So let's take a look maybe at the legs. So I'll press 1. So the first thing I'll do is maybe select the leg. I can lasso select then all the bones underneath. Press G and X and just drag this across a little bit. Something like this. I'm going to press 3 for side view. Similar to the arm, we want a little bit of a bend here from the hips down to the knee back to the ankle. So I'll select the ankle joint here, press G, drag this back and position that on that edge loop there approximately. I can zoom in, select this joint here. I can drag it forward on the Y a little bit. Select this here, press G and Y and just drag that to the tip. This bone here, it's going to be important for the roll of the heel. So I'll press G and Y and drag that back. And maybe zoom in a little bit. Press G and Y again. So you want this bone center to the back edge on the bottom. So I can press Z and wireframe. What we could do if I tab back to object mode, I can select this foot, tab in here, maybe press and hold the middle mouse button. I can select these two vertices, Shift S cursor to selected, tab back here, select this, tab into edit mode. With this bone selected, Shift S, selection to cursor. So that places it dead on center. I can move it back then, so GX, move it along here, approximately to the center of this here. Maybe something like that. Okay, I'm going to come back to look dev. And that would be pretty good. The important thing is that you have your joints approximately where you expect that bend to happen. So the knee joint, for example, I can zoom in here. I might select it, maybe drag it up a little bit. So that would be pretty good. Hips joint, the same thing. I might just press 1. So I'm going to press G and Z and maybe drag that down a little bit. Maybe press G, Z, just drag it down to that joint there. So I'll select this, press G, Z, maybe drag it down a little bit. Okay, and I can work up along, maybe reposition these at the edge loops there, just to help with that rotation. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'll press 3 then and maybe zoom out. Just take a look at how these joints are. So maybe this one, drag it back a little bit. This one here. Okay, they'd be pretty good. I'd be pretty happy with their positions. I'd recommend just taking the time to position them as accurately as you can. So just think of each of those joints as the rotation point of the limb that it's going to be affecting. So the shoulder joint, for example, you want to imagine where that should be placed. Same with the knees, the elbows and the wrists. And in general, just accurate placement of the bones. Okay. Thing I'll do then is come back to object mode. So with the rig selected, what we can do first is generate the control objects. So I'll come over to the rig properties here and scroll down to this button here and click generate rig. Now that might take a moment to generate the control objects. Okay, and that generates the rig. The next process will be to bind the character to that rig. Now the first thing I'll do is just select the character. I'll come over to the object tab here and just scroll down. I'm going to switch off the wireframe. I'll come up to the modifiers tab and just keep an eye on this. So an armature modifier will get added once we bind the character. I'm going to come up to the outliner and just hide the visibility of the meta rig. Those control objects were generated based on that. We don't actually need to see it. So with the character selected, I'll shift select the rig, control P to set parent to, and I'm going to choose with automatic weights. Okay, and that binds the character automatically. If I select the rig, press Control Tab to come into pose mode. Again, you can choose pose mode up here from this drop down. I can select maybe this here, press G and drag. Okay, and I can see that my character has been bound. Now you'll also notice that the eyes need to be bound and the teeth and the gums. So I'm just going to right click just to cancel that transformation. I'll press Control Tab, come back to object mode. I'll also just select the character. I can come over to the modifiers tab here. I'm going to move up the armature modifier in the stack. Okay, we want that first before the subdivision surface modifier. And I can also switch back on the visibility of the subdiv modifier. Now just be aware that if you are having performance issues, you can also just leave that set to off while you're playing around with the armature. Okay, I'm just going to leave it switched on. So the next thing to do is to bind the teeth, the eyes and the tongue. So I'm going to zoom in here. So let's first take a look at combining the tongue. So I'm going to press Z, bring up wireframe. I can zoom in here and just rotate around. I can select it. Okay, so with this object selected, I can just pan over. I'm going to shift select the armature, Control Tab to come into pose mode. Now you can see that we're in pose mode and you can see that from up here. We have this dark orange outline on the tongue and that's what we're looking for. Now the next thing we need to do is select the control object that's in the mouth for the tongue. I might press 3 actually for side view and it's this object here. So if I press and hold shift, select this, I can come over to the bone names here. And you can see that it says tongue master. Just make sure you have the correct bone selected. I'm going to press Control P for the set menu 2. And in this case, I'm going to choose bone. Okay, so if I select the bone now on its own, press G, it's going to pull the tongue. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see that we have control of that. Let's do the same thing for the teeth. So Control Tab to come back to object mode. I can select the bottom teeth and gums, press and hold shift, select one part of the rig here, Control Tab into pose mode. I can select this object here, which is the rectangle. It's called teeth.b for the bottom. Control P again, set parent to the bone, and Control Tab. Let's come back to object mode, select these teeth, Control click the armature, Control Tab. Come back into pose mode. I can select this rectangle named teeth.t for top, Control P and set parent to the bone. So now if I control tab back to object mode, I can select the armature on its own, control tab, come in here. So I can select any of these bones now, press G, and you have control of the top teeth with that bone. And here, if I select it, press G, we have control, and also the tongue, we have control of the tongue. Okay, so I can just right click. We need to do something similar for the eyes. Now it's a little bit different for the eyes. For some reason, selecting that control object here doesn't actually give us control of the eye. So I'm going to press control tab to come back here. I can press Z and just come back to look dev. I can zoom out a little bit just so we can see what's happening. So with the rig selected, I'm going to come over to the object data tab. I'm going to press and hold shift and just click on this second last layer here. I'll press Z, bring up wireframe and zoom in. Okay, it's a couple more bones here, but it's not too complicated. I'm going to select the eye outer. You can see that listed here. You can also have it listed up here. Okay, I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. Press and hold shift, select the armature. Similar to before, control tab and come into pose mode, and I'll just rotate around here. I'm going to zoom in. So what I want to do is select this bone here that's coming straight out to the center. It's this one here. And again, come over to the bone names, mch-i.l. Okay, you can see that up here as well. So with that selected, control P. Again, we can set the parent to the bone. All right, okay, I'm going to pan over, control tab back to object mode, select the eye outer, shift click a part of the armature, control tab, come in here. I can select that bone. Again, just make sure you have the eye outer highlighted in pose mode. Control P and set parent to that bone. Now again, just make sure you have the correct name there. Control tab back to object mode. And with the armature still selected, I'll come over here, press and hold shift and just switch off those bones. We don't need to see them again. I can zoom out, select the armature, maybe come back to look dev. So I'll press 1 for front view and just come over. I can press control tab now to come into pose mode. And then you can start selecting bones and just having a look at animating the characters. So if I double tap R with that head bone selected, I can rotate the character's head. I can maybe select this here, press G, drag it down. I can rotate around here. I can select maybe the IK, the hand IK. So this one here, maybe press 1. I can press G, come into a side view, maybe press G, maybe rotate it a little bit. Okay, so you can do lots of stuff with the character. I'll press 3 again, maybe come over here. So we have a roll here, so I can press R and roll the character's foot forward. I can also roll it back. Cool, so lots of control. Press G, drag that over. Okay, so these are IK. There is switches there for FK also. So if you prefer FK, you can use that. Okay, very cool. And if you want to clear out your rotations, I'm going to press A to select everything. I'll press Alt R to clear out any rotation, Alt G to clear out any translation, and then Alt S to clear out any scale. Okay, so if you have any issues with it, just take a few steps back and go through the process again. The most important process is probably positioning the bones. So take your time with that stage for sure. Okay, but otherwise that's it for the course. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and